Connecting. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. Still not on Twitch.
How many people do we have on Twitch anyway?
Oh,
Seriously.
maybe 2 on a good day. But okay, and we're live. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 69 of the Homemade Camera Podcast. We have a very special guest today, Jerimiah Jones, who is at sunny16_photo on Instagram. He is a camera builder that I know through maybe 3 emails and enjoying his Instagram feed, which I have up on my phone right now. We'll maybe do some screen shares of that. Jerimiah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Really glad to be here. Huge fan.
Oh, I'm also a huge fan. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you got into camera making, and some of the cameras you make that I covet over the internet or find inspiring. Let's start. Jeremiah, who are you? Where do you live? What's your deal?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So my name's Jerimiah Jones. I live in just outside Baltimore, a small town called Boring, Maryland, believe it or not. I grew up in the Maryland area, bounced around the country a lot. Long story short, landed in New York and spent about 10 years in the photo industry there. Before that, long passion of photography. I took every photo class through high school and to the point where it was an independent study for me my senior year. And all I did was build pinhole cameras and hide in the darkroom. So, fast forward through the years, always had a camera with me. Family, a lot of my family is very camera oriented. One of my uncles was actually a manager of Ritz Cameras. I don't know if you remember the chain, but he was
I gave them lots of my money.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, I have a Quantaray body somewhere around here and a bunch of Quantaray lenses. There's a Quantaray right there.
That's how they all end up. So my uncle, he was a huge supporter of my photography career. He'd take me on trips and give me all these rolls, 10-shot rolls of Agfa chrome and Agfa color negative film that they would just get free. He would just give me like shopping bags full of this, and I would shoot it all. And the next time I'd see him, I'd pass it to him and he would process it for me. And then next time I'd see him, I'd get the prints and go through. And then eventually I found myself working with a photographer who's actually based here in Maryland, who I met through my parents. I volunteered for her apprentice, I guess, for a few months until I started to outshine some of her other photo assistants. And she's like, I don't know why I'm paying this guy. I'm going to start paying you now. And that kind of snowballed into me moving to New York City and diving into a full-fledged photo career. So meanwhile, in the background, the sewing machines have always kind of been there as well. High school, I was modifying and making my own clothes. Crazy kids. And then eventually got a job out in Colorado in a shop that did sewing repairs. It was all commercial equipment, and they did some small production runs. And I spent, better part of 3 years in that shop and a couple other shops around there. And that I had my sewing chops at that point. And when I moved to New York, I had an industrial machine that I moved with me. And anytime I wasn't working or assisting, which was, really hit or miss, especially towards the digital transition, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. I was sewing bags. I was making custom camera bags for friends in the industry, fixing busted light meter cases, light stand cases, that kind of thing. Side hustle, whatever you can do to pay the rent and keep food coming in.
Hey, can I ask what years were you working in the photo industry in New York?
Let's see. That's 2000 through 2010.
I had a little bit of overlap.
Did you?
Yeah, I assisted this jewelry photographer named David Beal, who's a bit of a genius, and I was just, the
Did you say David Field?
Beal, Behl.
Field. Okay. Okay.
Did you work for David Field?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a guy named David Field.
That reminds me of my friend Tara Cooper, who had a nemesis named Tanya Hooper at summer camp when she was a kid. No, I was just
That's awesome.
the monkey that ran the film to the lab. We shot 4x5s and sometimes 8x10s, and I would get on David's bike and ride across Canal Street to the lab and drop it off in the morning after the first set, and then after the second set, I would drop off the second set and then look at the first set on the light table and call on the landline and say, okay, these are exposed properly. You can break down set one and start on two, or like, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Run box 1 normal, run box 2 +1.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my first job was actually in a still life studio in New York. My first like full-time studio job. Guy named Tom Card. And we shot a lot of like Neiman Marcus catalog stuff, and this was all. So this is 2001 maybe. We shot it all on chrome, 4x5, 8x10, Polaroids,
This
Photo.
was exactly my job.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
did like the Van Cleef and Arpels catalog stuff.
Oh man, yeah, we did a lot of. I worked with Simon Doonan a lot on the all the catalog work for Barney's. They were, they would just have a fancy lunch outside the studio while we're in there snapping away pictures of diamonds and whatnot.
Yeah.
We'd have sometimes as many as 40 heads on 40 lights, strobes on one set, lighting one thing. You could feel the heat generated off the set when those strobes pop.
Yep. Yeah, I remember. I'm not like small or nimble, but a lot of my jobs was like climbing between 20 C stands to like move a diamond a millimeter so it was pointed at the camera, or to like move ahead a little bit. And I'm just like, doing gymnastics through lighting setups, and eventually we got this great overhead rail thing where you could just drop and pull the strobes down. And then David moved out of that studio about a year later. That was real sad.
Now, were you shooting like quarter stop brackets on the chrome sheet film?
Yeah, right. And so like it was I started working for this guy David Beal, who's a father of a friend of mine, who's a super talented photographer, and he hired me to put the plumbing into his new darkroom. So I did that, and then we built the darkroom and the darkroom sink, and then he hired me to sit in the darkroom all day, just loading 4x5 holders. And then, eventually I worked my way up to running the film to the lab, and sometimes getting lunch if clients were there, or moving light stands. And eventually we went digital, and I ran the computer tethered, and then I felt like I was the boss because he would shoot a frame and I'd say, all right, David, move it a little to the left, which was like kind of the other way around. And he would say things like, yeah, we fix it in post. And I was like, didn't you just spend 2 years telling me to do it right the first time? But yeah, we would pack down, dozens and dozens of chromes into, over one stop, under one stop, over a quarter stop boxes, and then, sort them out at the lab after the first process run. I bet probably a lot of people who started their careers around our age or 50 years older, just doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. That taught me a lot about 4x5 and really influenced a lot of the building that I do today, because you got to understand the fundamentals of the camera and how it functions.
So okay, all of these things are now mixed up in my outline here, but let's bring it back. And you had mentioned that you spent a lot of time building pinhole cameras in high school, or were you always a builder of things? And were those things always cameras? Obviously, you are a tailor of sorts. Um, you were a camera maker. What else do you make, Jeremiah?
Oh man, Volvos. I make Volvos now out of other Volvos. Yeah, I've always been a tinkerer. It's just my nature. Can't leave well enough alone. Something isn't right. I got to fix it. I think also being left-handed has something to do with it. A lot of adapting or trying to make things adapt to how I work. So yeah, never quite satisfied with how things stand, and I always have to make them better for myself.
Can you think of the first thing that you built that you were like really happy with, maybe as a kid?
Oh man. So my dad is a carpenter, so there was I mean, anytime there's leftover wood, it came home. I built everything and anything out of that. Like I would build battleships that would float in the pond, and then I grew up in a very rural part of Maryland, no neighbors for miles. We would get out 22s and try and sink the battleships in the pond, and what else would we build? I built a lot of wooden swords, rubber band guns, all that stuff.
I was limited to firecrackers and Tonka toys. So, you know,
You're halfway to a cannon there.
So, so you're when let's start with the that building that first camera. Was it a pinhole or was it something else?
The very first camera was like Quaker Oats box, a piece of brass sheet and literally a pinhole in it, and running around my high school taking pictures of anything and everything. Later, that as I started, like, that class was just so much fun for me. Having free access to the darkroom, I was making so much stuff, and it just started to evolve. And then one day, a teacher brought out a box of cameras that other students had made. They're like, "You can do whatever you want with these." So then, one guy had made this huge pinhole that had its own. He made a cardboard 8.5 or 8x10 sheet holder, so you could fit a whole piece of paper in there. And I modified that, added some lenses to it, and we got some really, really wild stuff. That was a lot of fun. And after that, there was some tinkering and things like that later down the road. But it was mostly, I had my Nikons and Pentexes early on, SLRs, and then around 1997, no, 98, my grandfather passed away, and I inherited his Leica M3 and a few lenses, and I started to use that religiously, and started to round up lenses for it and things like that. And that kind of, again, really influenced my photography, especially learning scale focus and Sunny 16, because there's no light meter on that thing. Actually, my uncle is the one who taught me the Sunny 16 rule, because the first camera he gave me was a Nikon Fg, which is a battery. So it's a quartz shutter, so battery operated mechanical shutter. But it has a setting on the shutter speed dial M90, which is a 90th of a second manual fire, and it just fires at a 90th, and you can work with a flash, and it kind of gives you a nice mid-range, and you can still make pictures when your battery dies. So he taught me how to use that, and he's like, well, look, you just judge the sun. Sunny 16 really explained it all to me, and that kind of influence, again, from there just kind of grew. So I've been using that since high school.
And hence your handle.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Obviously, on when we're photographing diamonds, it's a little different because each
Sure.
light is a you know eighth of a stop or whatever, a tenth of a stop difference.
Right.
So, but you get the right tools for the job. You get a nice light meter.
So, before we get on to cameras, Jeremiah, what types of pictures have you liked to take throughout your life? Has that changed, or you're into one or two types of things? I assume you were one of these guys that carries a camera everywhere and shoots just about anything that's interesting to you. Maybe that's an assumption on my part, but what type of photographer or what type of photos do you like to take?
Well, so it's evolved over the years, right? When I was living in New York, pursuing a uh, photography career, right? I'm building a book. I'm shopping a book around from agency to magazine after magazine. Dropping it off on a Tuesday and picking it up on a Thursday. And if I can get a meeting with the editor, awesome. But that was a lot of work and a very competitive market. And this was right before this big digital transition. Before that, it wasn't really being used commercially except as like a previewing device or casting. So that's back when the Kodak camera was that tall. So where was I? That's my train of thought.
Sorry, Graham, is that you?
Yeah. Oh, I thought I muted. It's not letting me mute.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, if you were in it around 2000 to what do you say, 07, something like that?
I left in 2009, but I moved back to Maryland in 2009. But I started traveling. I was traveling back and forth between New York and Baltimore for work while my other businesses were starting to take off. So it was a transition year.
So I want to explore that a little bit. So your business transition kind of coincided with the transition from film to digital, right? Like, so I was assisting at the time where we shot everything on 4x5 chromes, and one day we just happened to have a job that needed to be turned around in like 3 hours, and so one of us ran to B&H and bought a D200, and it was good enough for that one job, and we put the Sinars and the Hasselblads in the safe, and like assumed that the next day we would break them out, and we just kept having jobs that didn't need much more quality than a D200 could put out. Kept shooting with it, and eventually, like, we had a leaf back for the Hasselblad, and a year later, we kind of shot nothing on film. That must have been around 03, 04.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
That was pretty much my career. So when I started in 2000, it was exclusively film, medium format, 35 millimeter, a lot, 4x5, 8x10, and get the oddball guy that's shooting some weird format that he made, or
11 by
14.
14 double page spreads for an auction catalog.
Yep. Yep, we did some. We did a billboard with an 11 by 14 camera. For like, I think it was Tag Heuer or something like that.
Fancy.
Yeah, fancy stuff. But so in that time, I watched this digital evolution where we're using these giant Kodak branded Nikon bodied
The
cameras.
14N.
Yeah. I've got an old one stuffed in the
Couple over
pile somewhere.
here. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a brick. I don't know what you would do with it. But anyway, we were using that for casting. We'd have 40 models walk through the door that day, and I would shoot them all with that, and then we'd sit down the next day, screen all the images, put all the selects in a folder. That was the extent of our digital work, and then I guess, yeah, about 3 years later, we started to see more of that stuff come into play. We were using there was a lot of ad campaigns where we would shoot two things. We would shoot 4x5, and then we would have to interlace it with things that you can't really shoot with a 4x5. Like if you're trying to go out to the beach and shoot silhouetted seagulls to drop into some of these images, it's hard to do that with sheet film. I couldn't imagine doing it with trying to get a. They were talking about trying to bring in a bird wrangler and trying to set this all up on a set. I was like, dude, just take the digital camera to the beach, point it towards the sky, you'll be good.
I remember I had a day in the middle of winter where I spent half a day riding around my boss's bicycle in Lower Manhattan looking for a store that had coconuts in stock, which I found on 14th Street. And then in the freezing cold on his roof, like kind of in the doorway to the stairwell, I painted those coconuts gold for the purpose of like dropping them in front of a camera so we could get images of them splitting open to interlace with a like $1 million gold animatronic monkey clock thing we
Oh
were
my
shooting. Yeah, I feel like we've had a bunch of similar really silly experiences trying to get photographic B-reel, if you will, for ad
Oh yeah.
campaigns.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you said this period of transition from film to digital, you were also making a career transition, moving back to Maryland, maybe starting a couple other businesses, maybe involving sewing or some other things. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that, and if it had much to do with the sort of transition to digital in the industry, or if it was coincidental and just timing of your life?
It was kind of interesting. I think the digital transition really happened around just after 9/11. I think that's where we started to see editors, uh, editorial budgets dropping, advertising budgets dropping. People aren't flying or traveling anywhere, so editors were just shooting stuff on their cell phone and ordering room service. So that transition, uh, maybe 3 years, I started to see assistants drop off the map, leave New York, move home, that kind of thing. So it was interesting to survive that. Or they were transitioning into digital teching, which was super lucrative at the time, because if you had skills on the computer, most of your Joe photographers out there didn't really, they are already established as film guys. They didn't really have the edge on the digital photography as the younger guys did. So there was an interesting thing there. So that kind of pushed me into a really unique situation where I specialized in film and exotic film variety, like systems. So if there was a lot of assistants after that initial transition that did not know how to operate a 4x5 system or an 8x10 system, or even like a Pentax 6.7 at that point. They had solely worked on digital stuff. So there's a good couple of years in there where kids are getting out of college with a high understanding of digital tech, and they're applying that and creating this new space. So I kept a good career there for a while, where I had a lot of assistant work, and I was starting to get some shooting jobs because I, again, could run film, and there were certain people and magazines and things like that were still ingrained in this film business. So no pun intended. So after that, at the same time, so Graham and I were just talking a little bit before we got started here. He was asking me about SoLab, and I was bringing him up to date on that. So predating SoLab, I started a business called Holdfast, which has now snowballed into SoLab and some other projects that we're working on. But Holdfast, our website's holdfastordie.com. It's a foot retention system for bicycles. So The last couple of years I was in New York. Well, actually, my whole life in New York, all I did was ride a bike everywhere. That was my primary mode of transportation. And over the years, just destroyed stuff. And again, my habit of having to make things better, I developed a foot retention strap that holds your foot to a pedal. So it's basically taking, if you're familiar with bicycle pedals and how they normally attach to your foot, you got a couple options. You got a shoe with a cleat that kind of connects in and you're locked into your pedal. You could have a thin leather strap with a metal cage over the front or a plastic cage over the front that you slip your foot into. That's like 1800s technology there. What we did is we came up with a 2-inch wide seatbelt webbing strap that's adjustable with Velcro and can integrate with just about any pedal. 2009 being the year of the blog, we got a lot of coverage from one of my friends in New York who had a pretty big following, and that kind of one thing led into another. I started making these in my closet on my own sewing machine, right? And then eventually I had to hire a company to help make them just because the demand was so high. And then eventually we copied the equipment. And in that time, I'm moving down to Maryland. My at the time fiance, now my wife of 11 years. She and I were looking to move down here to be closer to my family, and Baltimore had some pretty decent real estate prices or rent prices in terms of building out a manufacturing facility. And at the time, I knew Baltimore had a sewing history. When I was a kid, there were definitely factories there and that people were working in. Little did I know that all disappeared to kind of a skeleton, but that's actually kind of a trend across the country too. So bigger thing. But so that transition, in that time I was going back and forth from here to New York or flying out of Baltimore to go on jobs in Puerto Rico or wherever, Florida, wherever we were needed. So that kept the income going while I transitioned. And eventually my Holdfast was paying my bills, and I just made the full transition. There's also a little bit of burnout the end of that 10-year span working in a commercial photography setting. You realize how shallow the industry is. Sorry if that offends any of you. But at the end of the day, I was coming home from these jobs, like really cool jobs, traveling all over the place, working with really amazing photographers. I wasn't getting fulfillment out of it, and it really just burned me out, and I didn't want to pick up a camera after doing it all day. It became exhausting, making other people's images.
In about 2006, I remember, I actually loved that assistant job that I had, but I also, maybe this was a bit before 06, but I spent a lot of time taking pictures for, I had like 20 different jobs, and I realized like after the year I had made $7,000 and lived on my mom's couch, and I didn't take one picture that I loved, and I was like, oh, it's time to go back to school, do something else. Like if I was a writer, holding a pencil would not float my boat. But it somehow led us both back to building cameras, which I would like to talk about more in the next segment. I think we're going to take a quick break, which will be a very quick break on the podcast, and a longer break if you're watching live on YouTube. And then we're going to come back and talk to Jerimiah about kind of your first cameras that you've built as an adult, like past just the oatmeal box pinhole camera, and then hopefully we can work our way through them and see some examples. So if you're watching live, stick around. If you are listening on the podcast, we'll be back in 30 seconds. Let's see, can I put something up? Okay. So I'm going to mute us.
Hey, do you have a time on that?
And we're back. Okay, so we left off talking about Jeremiah's career in photography in New York and sort of where he came from and making a transition to full-time sewing things and manufacturing things in Maryland. I'm a real fan of small manufacturing, as some of you know. But now
I'm a
let's
huge fan of bags, so
we will get into them. But let's get to cameras. This is the
yeah.
meat of this thing. Jeremiah, you said that you have been building cameras kind of forever, so I suspect you don't have your original oatmeal can to show us. But what when you got to Maryland, or when you started? I mean, you're building some real serious cameras now. Um, Maybe let's start at what was your first serious camera, or a less serious camera that led you to it?
Um, okay, so I've been collecting parts for this one build for a long, long time. I probably 2003. I found a lens. Okay, I'll back up a bit. I had a good friend that worked at B&H New York days. He would call me anytime something cool came in. He's like, "You got to come check this out. You're gonna love it." Um,
He was
there,
your dealer, man. He
Was,
was
was
yeah,
he
he was my
the
dealer.
was he the used desk?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that section.
yep. Um, so he called me one day and he's like, "You got to come check this out." So I go in and he shows me this camera that was built by Thomas Roma. I've heard you mention his name
Oh
before too.
yeah, I've met Tom Roma.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Um, yeah, we don't have to go into too much detail about him. There's a lot of mixed feelings there,
Yeah.
but uh, I can argue the fact that he is a brilliant camera builder. So I saw a Mamiya press roll film back, a Mamiya press lens, a big viewfinder on it, and
Was this one of the original Cyclops cameras?
yeah, it was.
Awesome.
It was an early Cyclops. I had, the machined aluminum and real clunky, but really simple. And at that time, I have this habit of, climbing this. I got this bell curve of technology that I follow, where I get into something, I follow it to the top of its coolest tech, and then I strip it all down to its simplest form, and that's kind of where I like to exist at the end. So, seeing his camera kind of inspired me. I was like, "This is insane," So my buddy Keith, who was working there, he would call me anytime something cool came in. He's like, "Hey, there's a 6x9 press back here with your name on it." So I'd come in and scoop that up, and then a lens would pop up, and I'd go in and scoop that up, and uh, eventually those things just got shelved. When we moved from New York to Maryland, everything got packed up, and again, I was kind of coming off of that. Just being burned out on the commercial photo industry, that I wasn't really looking at a camera. I was mostly just focusing on home and building a family and that kind of thing. So I'm building a business. That was the big piece. So after about 3 years, I started to get really creatively frustrated. I didn't have much of an outlet. I was seeing things that I would, I'd take a picture with my phone. I'd be like, "This is just not satisfying at all. I'm not going to look at it ever again." I had a couple digital cameras I picked up over the years, but nothing really crazy fancy. But I was just never satisfied with the file. It was just missing a tactile quality that I kind of needed. So I was like, you know what? I got those parts in there. I'm going to start building. I've got most of a wood shop outside. I've got some skills that I didn't have back then. I'm going to dive in and see what I come up with. I also way into instant film at the time. Like when I was, half of that time in New York, I had an SX70 with me. all the time. The Time Zero film was like at B&H, it was $7 for 10 sheets, which now
Which
it's like,
seemed expensive.
yeah. I'd buy a case and it was like $5 a box. Like it was crazy. But now
if you can get it for $7 a sheet now, you're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing good. Crazy. And you're lucky if all those come out as decent images. So yeah, when Time Zero left, when they announced they were discontinuing it, my heart was broken. I was like, oh, this is just awful. I was in the middle of a project where I had that camera with me everywhere, and anytime I saw something that resembled a heart, whether it was a gum on the sidewalk or spray paint or a leaf or whatever, I started to collect these hearts, and I have like maybe 180 of them now, but I really wanted that project to continue to 1,000. It's kind of a passion project. If you're familiar with the Japanese tradition of 1,000 paper cranes, I kind of based it off of that. So kind of, it was really sad to see the Time Zero disappear. It went like the prices skyrocketed instantly, and so fast forward a few years, I get over that. I'm here in Maryland. I'm bored. I've got some tools. I got a lens. I got a film back. I got some other stuff laying around. I'm going to build the camera I wanted to build, which was a Polaroid pack film with I had a Polaroid 600 SE 75mm lens. That's the lens I sent you, Ethan. I had that lens, and I took an old Polaroid 100 series land camera. One has a Zeiss icon viewfinder, flea market style. These things. I won't show all the details of this thing yet, but took one of those apart. I went to my local camera shop, Service Photo, checked in with them. I was like, oh yeah, there's like a whole stack of FP100C sitting on the shelf. We're good. I'm going to build this. So I built it over a weekend. I don't have it, unfortunately. I've since reappropriated all the parts to it and turned it into something else, which I'll show you in a bit. But I built it. I cobbled it together. I had to make my own lens board and bayonet mount, which I ended up using a couple, like a piece of sheet aluminum and then like a aluminum rings spacer ring from like a router table, and I used that, and I have file, and I made my own bayonet mount and lugged it on there, and got my focal plane distance set. I made I cut down a 4x5 ground glass that I had laying around from an old rotted out Graflex. Best parts harvest you could ever ask for. So I got it together. I'm like, sweet, we're ready to go. Monday morning, I go to Service Photo to buy some packs of the FP100C to run some tests. And
I'm seeing it. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I'm seeing it coming.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I'm like, what happened? He's like, you didn't hear? Same heart palpitation from the Time Zero film. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
What like the rage. You could just see the thermometer building up.
This is when the Marilyn Manson's absolute best lyrical moment ever, and that was I wasn't born with enough middle fingers. At that point, that you did not have enough pointed at Polaroid and the world for doing it right then.
Oh my God, I wrote so many.
Or I guess actually it's not Polaroid at that point, it's Fuji, isn't it?
Yeah. I wrote them so many angry letters. I was like, I can't believe you're doing this. You're exiling a whole community. It was heartbreaking, to say the least. So, like, I managed to find a few packs. I think I found it on Amazon for like $21 for 10 sheets, and before it skyrocketed to like what it is now, which is like $75 to $100 for a 10 pack, if you can find it.
I sold 2 packs at Christmas time for $85 a pack.
Oh my
God. And that was, I've turned that into a Chamonix 4x5 partly. I mean.
Yeah, I'm sitting on a few. I'm tempted to.
So what did you do about this? Did you just hoard some film and go on and shoot with it? Did you modify the camera? Did you build another camera?
Oh, I was on fire at that point. I was like, I need an instant film camera that has full manual controls. Like, I don't need anything fancy. I don't need autofocus. I don't need any aperture priority crap. I don't need any of that. I just want full manual. So I did some research, a lot of research, and found that the Instax film probably wasn't going anywhere. And at the time, Lomo had come out with their Bel Air camera, and they made an Instax back for that. I was like, okay, that's a good place to start. It was like $100. Then
is that an Instax wide back on the Bel Air?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instax wide. Nowadays, you couldn't find that for less than $600, and when it pops up for $600 on eBay, it's gone. Like, people just snatch those up. And to be honest, it's not like a very well-built piece of equipment. It's a lot of plastic parts. Like, eventually that winding knob's going to crack off. But, so I found that, and I was like, all right, I'm going to need a lens, and just started tinkering, kind of, basing the idea off of the last build and how that went together, which I used basically stacked layers of plywood that I jigsawed, into my shape to make my camera box, and then ran bolts through all of that, which tied it to the Polaroid 100 back.
I love that look.
Held the lens board on and the lens and everything, and it worked really simple.
Hey, do you happen to have that one with you for the YouTube viewers and me?
I do not have.
Or a picture of it?
Yeah, I have to have a picture of it. It's probably on my Instagram.
Okay.
Definitely on my Instagram in the earlier section. We can.
I'll take a look through that.
Okay.
I did dismantle that, and those parts got cobbled into something else. But from that, I learned a lot, and that influenced my next build in terms of weight. And so I bought that Instax back, and then I used that to, and we can. Oh, you know what? I'll go into the build pictures first. Let me.
While you're doing that, you said you bought that Instax back. You mean the Bel Air to strip the back off of?
Yep. Well, actually, you could just buy directly from Lomo. They'll sell you the back itself. All right, bear with me here. That's.
Okay. I found it. I was just about to do. But anyway, go on with what you've got.
Hold on. Here. What? Let's see. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
It's gonna take me a second to find it.
Yeah.
Grammar.
There we go. Right. You guys seen it?
Yep. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember this.
This is it, right? This is what we're talking about?
This is the Instax one. So there,
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, so there's some really beautiful woodworking and finishing and leather handle strap and it looks like some paracord.
Oh
This
yeah,
is-
that's my for a shoulder strap.
yeah. Okay. So this was if you go to the Sunny16_photo on Instagram. It says you were in Sweden at this
Yeah.
point.
Yep. So that's my wife's family is actually from Sweden.
Okay.
So we were visiting her brothers, and of course I dragged a handful of cameras I made with me.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right, so I got these pictures pulled up. So okay. Do this a different way. All right, you guys seeing that?
Yes. Oh wow.
Yep.
So that's the handle fabrication. This is all black walnut.
Okay. So he's got a Bellows extension, kind of like the Chroma camera snapshot. And it looks like, are those drawer pulls out at the front?
Oh yes. The best.
Well, I mean, built-in handles.
Yeah.
Handles.
lens bumper too. So
Yeah. Okay.
It was I was inspired by some of the Fuji GX690 or whatever it's called. So yeah, you can see some of the build pictures there.
What's the lens on that?
That is it's a Vascar. Come back to this.
Okay.
All right, so I got it right here. We've gone through a few lenses.
Yeah.
This is it's a Voigtlander 6x9 lens.
Okay.
Again, I just kind of stalked eBay and Etsy looking for, old cameras that, are worth chopping the lens off and
And hey,
cobbling them into something.
before we get way down the lens path, it looks like, did you build the wooden part of that camera, which is very impressive woodwork? Did you just hand carve or use a router table and sandpaper? Or, how does one get curves like that without a CNC machine?
Okay, so for those of you listening on the podcast, think of the wood handle for a Pentax 6.7.
Yeah, but much nicer and curved to fit a hand.
And walnut.
Yeah.
So I use what do you call a rotary sander? It has a rod that goes up and down, spinning really fast, and it comes with different sizes. And I just spent I did some rough cuts with a saw and kind of roughed in the shape, felt it a little bit, and just kind of worked it down until I had something that was really comfortable, solid grip, easy to hold on to. And then the leather strap I added later, extra thing.
It's very high quality build, right? Looks super professional.
Way higher quality than we normally have.
Yeah.
You can see here I had to I used a table saw to profile the back so that it joined with the Bel Air back cleanly. Don't remember if I got film in this now. This is definitely the weak part right here. I am deathly afraid that this is going to snap off one day. Bouncing around a camera bag. I love this camera. It's super light. It's really easy to work with. I've shot weddings with it. I've shot events with it. All sorts of stuff. It's my favorite. It's actually about due for an update. I got a new lens for it in the near future. I'm going to put a Connie Omega 60 millimeter wide angle lens from their Their
Rapid series.
yeah, this ugly duckling
Oh
here.
yeah. I'm well acquainted with those.
Yeah,
World's ugliest camera.
it really is. It's
It's
but,
definitely it's definitely a Volvo 240 wagon of cameras.
I love the 240.
Yeah, totally a brick. Yeah, I feel pretty safe with that in Baltimore. One, no one's going to be able to take it away from me, and two, if you had to swing it, it's a heavy instrument, and you wouldn't hurt the camera at all. So yeah, the Instax build, I call that the Instax Wide Lux. I think that's what I have it hashtagged as on Instagram. It's about due for an update, but it really has been my favorite camera. And so, that kind of got the gears rolling. I again created something nice.
Jeremiah, can I stop you and ask what year was that camera? I mean, it sounds like it gets updates over the years, but what year was it that you sort of finished the build the first time and started using it?
Oh, let's see.
Approximate date, just for timeline sake.
Yeah, maybe 2016.
Got you.
Okay. I was going to say the date on the Instagram in Sweden was 2017, June of 2017.
Yeah,
so
2016 then.
Okay.
That's about right. If you look on the Instagram feed too, you'll actually see preceding the images that you're showing before, you'll see some the evolution of the build a bit. You'll see a different lens on there. You'll see different wood.
Lego.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Lego camera that worked amazingly well. The images from that really turned out well. I love building camera obscuras too. Those are fun. There's a Lego camera obscura there as well. But after that, it's been like, I got some parts laying around. Let's see what I can cobble together this weekend, or maybe I'll set a more specific goal. Like everybody, I want a handheld 4x5, but with what Ethan makes and stuff out there, it's almost no point to do that anymore, because the 3D printing, that has just revolutionized what we, the kind of craft work that we're doing.
Just because it's been done elsewhere doesn't mean that you don't get to do it yourself.
That's true. That's true.
Hey man, I'd love to sell you a camera, but I'd also much more love to see the camera that you build.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's not going to
you
stop
from my
me.
store.
Yeah. If you go back far enough, you get to see the black tape version of it as well.
Yeah.
Which is way more my speed.
Oh, there's still a lot of tape on some of these things. So let's see. After that, I built. I was like, all right, I need a film counterpart to that. And again, this was like a combination of an old Graflex camera, a Mamiya press camera that I picked up. Yeah, this is basically,
I love the added bolt flanges where you just drilled through the front of a Mamiya press.
Yeah, why not?
It looks so solid and like it's designed like that. I just know that those are drill holes because I know that camera. That's amazing.
Also, it looks like you're using Bellows for extensions. And so are you building these Bellows yourself, or are you scavenging them?
In this, no, I haven't built any Bellows myself. That's definitely on the list.
Those
I
look
use
like
them.
the Mamiya press Bellows scavenged out of a Mamiya press body.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And they just run through the plywood. But it allows like micro tuning. So if you don't get your spacing right on the first time, I can tune it. And you can also kind of tweak and get a little bit of shift out of it if you set your focus ground glass.
This camera is so cool.
You can really see the plywood build.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the cachet of the walnut, but
yeah, I mean, these are the cameras that I saw that I was like, okay, we got to talk. I mean, I build a couple hundred homunculuses in a year, but like this is sort of next level. I'm sure it takes you weeks and weeks to build something like this, figure out how the one-off parts fit together, but I mean, that is simpler than the black walnut camera, but beautiful in its own right. Really solid looking.
They go through their own evolutions, This one will probably get updates in a few years. I'll come up with a new wave.
For those of you watching on video, I'm going to share again, and we see this unbuilt or unfinished. So let's see as it presents. Are you guys seeing?
Yep, we're on.
Yeah, there we go. So this is it without the bellows, with the drill holes. So it's
grip.
kind of a behind the scenes look.
So it's
the rough cut.
A kind of always evolving process. So this was like the first mock-up, and then I had to make some changes. The wood component was too thick for the center board, and kind of changed. You can see the Graflex hiding back there, and the old Graflex.
Let me ask you about this. So, I mean, we build, I would say, functionally very similar cameras. I might rather have one of your beautiful wooden cameras, but they're sort of Mamiya press cameras that take some form of a Graflex back, which I'm pretty into. Which actually came mostly from Nick Lyle poking me to build those guys. But I noticed on that last picture Graham was showing, the camera that you have now had 2 grips. Nick was pushing me on the homunculus to make a left-handed grip, and I put a month and a half, 2 months worth of work into that thing, and I was like, Nick, I'm not going to be able to sell it with a left-handed grip. I want a right-handed grip. And he's like, no, it's stupid. This lens is designed to be operated with your right hand. And so, I wound up with a compromise of a grip that you could swap from side to side with, 2 screws. And then, I started selling them with 2 grips to people who just thought that was like, my friend Han got one, and he was like, yo, give me another grip. That's gangster style. And now it's like got 2 little fists sticking out of it, which looks cool. I think is kind of impractical, but a bunch of people have bought it that way. But I want to know, you designed, extremely similar camera and went from 2 grips to 1 grip. What was in there?
And I'm going to say 2 grips would once again have a lens guard effect on it.
Yeah.
So, which has value. Okay. Anyway,
I follow that bell curve of complexity and over engineering back down to simplicity, and I think when I did this one, I really kind of more or less, you're in situations where you're backed into a corner and you have to rotate and hold the camera with the other hand, that kind of thing. I had the grip there. I do like symmetry, but it also made the camera really bulky. And if it's kind of a thing that if you're carrying it a lot, it just hangs out there. But if it's doing another job, that makes a lot of sense, where it's acting as a lens bumper as well. That is smart engineering. Where anywhere you can make one thing do the job of 2 or more, that's good engineering.
The Alton Brown kitchen tool philosophy.
Yep. My wife would be laughing her head off right now if she heard you say that. I say it all the time.
Okay, so what came next after the roll film camera?
After that, let's see. I saw you guys your interview with Watch Me Make.
Hmm?
I'm forgetting his name right now.
Freeman Lynn.
Yeah,
Oop.
yeah. I
Yep.
love his cameras. Oh my God, they're gorgeous. Been following him on Instagram for a while, and
He posted one this week, and I went, "Oh, want."
I saw that. I saw that. I think I left a comment. I was like, "We should trade sometime." So those. Oh, okay. So yeah, I did end up shelving some cameras for a while. I was shooting with them, but I wasn't really building anything. I was heavy work and that kind of thing, kind of take over, and working on Volvos and other hobbies kind of take turns, as they go through. But I always come back to it. I'm looking for new ways to build things, new materials to explore. What's a good way to make a lens cone? That's like, again, I look at 3D printing. I'm like, holy crap! You just draw it out and hit go. That's incredible. I'm used to like carving it, shaping it out of plywood, then sanding it and gluing it all together, and
then finding out it's too long, and then you have to
file it down,
start again,
and then crooked, and you got to like sand off a corner. Yeah, so there's a lot of handwork that goes into the cameras that I build, but there's also a lot of trial and error around it. So there's a lot of natural evolution and process exploration and materials and that kind of thing. So pulled a old 3-lens stereo camera out of a bin of junk cameras.
Awesome.
And then I was like, all right, I got a day to build this. I need a lens. So I found an old 6x6 folding camera lens. This is
all right. I have no idea what that nose cone is. It looks almost 3D printed, but the texture is not.
So that's
wait, hold on. Don't tell us. Graham, what do you think this part is?
I think it's magic. No, it looks like it could be a painted hammered steel is what it could be. It's a flared, cone. And I do not know what it is.
I think it's maybe part of a doorknob or like an exhaust system, maybe.
That could be something.
Is it a Volvo
something
part?
like that. It does look like it could be like Plasti Dip spray finish.
I think there's metal in there, but I don't think we're coming close. So Jeremiah, why don't you tell us the most amazing part about this whole camera is it's like, we're looking at like a $5 Nimslo knockoff and a old folding camera lens, and between oh wow,
with a Lego finder.
Wow.
With a Lego finder mount.
It's a Lomo finder with a cold shoe glued to some Lego bricks, and
there we go.
Transition to my various Lego builds.
I have talked to a lot of people, and there's like this joke where engineering is just building adapters, and this is what's interesting to me about this camera is like, what are these adapters? And the Lego shoe mount, I got to make some plug-in shoe mounts like that. That's great. But what is this nose cone?
So this is again materials exploration. What do I have laying around at my shop? We build a lot of custom bags and custom cases. Sometimes we have to use rigid plastics and
heated PVC.
It's
no
ABS.
ABS. Okay.
So basic thermoplastic. We get it in sheet form. We usually have it water jetted to a specific shape, and then we have special
vacuum form?
No, well, almost. I don't quite have a setup for vacuum forming, but what we do is, and our shapes generally don't have to be that complex. We just have like a linear heating element in a piece of extruded aluminum that has a water pump running through it to keep the element cool enough. But it only heats like a thin line, so we can heat
like
up
an acrylic bender.
Exactly. Yeah, same thing. So you can just bend it. So we make we'll jig up like
Yeah, okay,
breaks for
but this nose cone that we're looking at is a 3-dimensional, flowing curve.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not possible.
So how I did that was I was like, this stuff is really interesting. I played with a heat gun. I heated it up, stretched it. You can really move it around. So I made a plywood form that was rough, or like it wasn't quite the shape of the curve here. This curve formed naturally, but I had uh, a plywood plate that had a hole in it about the size of this ellipse right here. And then I had a metal. It's a base that we use for putting rivets in things. It's like a big 2.5-inch long metal die. Now that just happened to be about the same size as my focal length for this lens. So I heated up the ABS sheet that I had in the middle. So the edges were still solid, but the middle was really soft. Stretched it, placed it over the metal form, and then I took my plywood piece, centered it over it, and pushed it down. And within 30 seconds, it was cooled to the touch and formed to that. And I just had to basically cut it out, cut my lens hole in, and I did a little bit of sanding on the back to dial in the focal length, but that was pretty much it.
Wild.
I have pictures from this. Let's see. Give me a second to bring them up.
For those of you who are listening, we're just taking a second to go some of Jeremiah's process photos from slumping ABS. I don't know, this, while you're doing it, it's making me think, like, man, I have 1,000 pounds of acrylic here, maybe 500 pounds, and I did just buy a new heat gun for desoldering electrical components. Maybe I should start making clay molds and slumping acrylic or ABS to shape.
Yeah, I know a guy who does a lot of. He's a fisherman, and he does a lot. And he fishes on a kayak, so he makes a lot of the equipment himself out of flat PVC. And all he does is, he buys a sheet of PVC, or he buys a PVC pipe, cuts it, heats it, flattens it, and then starts folding
I hope
it
he's
into
doing that outside with a respirator.
You're really.
PVC is real nasty to heat up.
But I've used that a couple of times. Where I have a PVC fence that a tree limb fell on and broke the top rail on, and so I did the same thing and just folded over a piece, and there's something to be said for that. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
All right, so this is my first round of images from the camera I was just showing.
I think you had a light leak.
Oh yeah, this is my daughter. We'll go through the whole roll here, but yeah, definitely some fogging. But I've gone back in and since sealed it up. But got some really interesting images.
Hey Jeremiah, can you pull the window just a little to the left so we can full frame?
Yeah.
Oh, other way. Nope, other way. It's your right.
There we go.
Nope.
All
right, we got to make it a little smaller just where. Oh no, I got this. Okay.
Okay.
Keep going. Perfect. That size. All right, so we're looking at some nice moody, misty panoramic shots out of this homemade camera.
Yeah, so you'll see some of the vignetting in the corners. On the inside of the body, there is components that are supporting the film traveling system. So I can't really chop those out. So what I'm gonna have to do is go in and mask them, I guess. Although I kind of like the kind of voyeuristic.
I love those simply because that's the fingerprint of a camera.
Right. Yeah.
And
sometimes I see the notches on a square photo and I know it's a Hasselblad.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But this one looks like everything was shot out the back window of a car, because the sort of bottom vignette to me looks like the back seat of a car out of focus.
Yeah.
These are great.
I like that. Yeah, so this was like a 1-day build.
Yeah.
It was,
okay, so what's the so this is 24 by 72, 24 by, no, it's a little bit more, 24 by 56 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I actually haven't really measured it.
Yeah,
it's wide.
So the lens on this, is this the 6x9 lens, or did you say what lens was on there?
It's a I would think a Wera. Enoworks, Enor 75 off of a 6x6 folding camera.
So it's a 75. So it's probably side to side, it's what we would consider a normal view, but top to bottom, it's going to be cropped. It's going to be a narrower, it's going to be a longer view, a narrower field of view.
Yeah.
So a lot of those can go very, very wide, very, very quickly. And I think that has, and you get barrel, distortion and stuff like that. I certainly saw in the out of focus areas, kind of a curved swirl, kind of a Petzval kind of swirl in the bokeh. And so I think that has a real interesting effect. That once again, one of my things always with building a camera is don't build a camera that you can buy. Build a camera that's something else. And by the way, when I say that you can buy, because most of us cannot buy an X-Pan. But that's a lot of fun. I love it. One of the things I like about it also is kind of the lo-fi effect of it. It's not pristine. What I was talking about with the fingerprints of the camera, the edge masking on the camera. It has that feel of it's yours. It's not anybody else's. There's only one person who can take that camera or take that picture, and it's whoever's holding that camera. So
yeah, and I think that's part of my issue with digital photography is just the general sterility of it. It's and lack of tangibility. I love being able to hold those things in my hand, having a Polaroid to look at and judge the light on, having and also there's something to be said for that anticipation while you're waiting for that film. It really builds it up so you want to see him.
Or the way I always think of it is, how many encounters do you have with every frame? So you have the encounter of loading the film, you have the encounter of taking the picture, you have the encounter of developing the film, you have the encounter of scanning it, you have the or printing, and then you have the encounter of processing in Photoshop if you do the digital end of it.
Yep.
So every photo, we touch it more times with that. You're talking about the sterility of digital, and one of the things that I've really been, I teach a community college photography class. It's the only photography class that's there, that's on the books at the school, and I teach the exposure triangle and, what does shutter speed do and what does aperture do. I barely touch on what ISO does because, if you're at 12,800 ISO on a camera that's been built in the last 5 years, you can't tell. you know, because it looks like 100 ISO from, you know, a while back. And the other thing is, if they leave it on automatic, and as long as they're not doing something like shooting somebody who's standing in front of a window, it's going to get the right exposure. And I question myself every time I teach exposure, whether I need to anymore. You know, like when I learned photography in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have to code our plates. You know, and I'm just wondering, you know, I still teach it, but I debate it every time because it is such a minor factor. I have an iPhone 12 that has that night shot feature.
That stuff's crazy.
And you press it, and it exposes for 5 seconds, and you get a still image that, as long as you're not moving the camera much, gives you a fabulous image. I'll quit on that tirade.
It is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So we build these cameras to look different, you know, to make that different image,
to have character, to have like, you know, in some ways the camera's kind of, I'm building an extension of myself, you know, like, you know, Nick would love this. Like, a blacksmith always builds his own tongs, you know. I think that's like a really interesting tradecraft element. And I think when you have your own camera that, you know, you operate with daily or almost daily, you get it becomes an extension of you. And, you know, again, Sunny 16, when it's ingrained in your brain and you think that way and you can scale focus that way, you can shoot it faster than a autofocus SLR. You just know where everything is. Like the old Leica press guys would set their lens at one f-stop and one focal length, wrap tape around it, and, you know, they've got 3 Leicas with 3 different lens settings and lens focal lengths, and they don't change anything. They just pull it up, shoot.
Hey, so what you just pulled up to mime, pull it up and shoot, looks to me a lot like a Cyclops.
Yeah, so again, kind of evolving all the, you know, with each evolution of each build, I, you know, refine, simplify. This is a wood body. If you can, hard to see here, but I painted it, you know, truck bed liner. That was, gave it a nice, like, almost hammer tone finish, and it really matches the rest of the Mamiya press.
And it's pro black.
Yep. Oh yeah. You'll note the lovely drawer pull at the bottom here. You know, that's, you know, grip, you know, easy, something to grab onto. It also has a wrist lanyard for when I'm holding it a lot. It's a Nikon 75 4.5 or Nikkor SW lens. See it there. Big, nice wide lens. I had a Schneider 65 on there, f8, but f8 just wasn't enough. I needed more.
So, and for those who are listening along, it has the S-curve Mamiya press 6x9 or multiple format film
yeah,
back.
This is a 6x9. I have a few 6.8 or 6.7, a couple 6.7s, and you know, they're really nice backs. They hold the film plane really tight. I really like them. But I keep seeing these medium format Graflock backs, and I really want to get my hands on those. I have a Littman 4x5 single, if you guys are familiar with that camera. I bought one of those a long time ago. It's the first Polaroid 110 based 4x5 rangefinder camera. Guy named William Littman in New York builds them. I bought one secondhand from a guy up there and actually sent it to William Littman, and he refurbed it for me and sent it back. And I did a lot of shooting with that camera. I love the lens. I've actually built cameras with the same lens. Get to one of those in a second, but let's see. Where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought.
It's fine. We got plenty of cameras to look at.
Yeah. So yeah, so one of the things that we want to really know is, what are you aiming for? What's coming down the pike? What's mixing around in your brain?
That's a good question. So I got a couple projects going. I want to relens the Instax wide camera. So
okay.
I was saying I got that. I got a 65 mil lens. It's actually in a Copal 0 shutter already. And I got a helicoid for it and everything. And I'm going to refurb that a little bit, dress it up. Probably keep the bellows. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's got a much shorter focal length, like really short. So the lens will be a lot closer to the film plane. So rehab on that guy. And then, so everyday carry cameras are kind of like you were saying earlier, Ethan. I do actually have a camera with me pretty much every day, usually some form of, lately I've been trying to shoot medium format more, but usually it's a 35 mil pocket camera or something like that. I've got a lot of Olympus XA variants and Minox and all those little pocket cameras. I love those things. I bought a Lomo LCA 120. Like I've had the Lomo LCAs for a long time. Probably I got my first one in the 90s.
Back when it was cool to have them.
Yeah, back when it shipped from Russia. You had to order it from Russia.
Right.
And it would come in a paper bag, and so the screws would all rattle out by the end of the month. I really like the camera. Again, it's scale focus. I like the fact that it's aperture priority for the most part. So I bought the 120 thinking it would be a medium format version of it. It's, I got that right up here. It's a fun camera. I like it. But it's aperture priority. The only thing you have control over is focus. And it's okay, but I need more control, and this just doesn't offer enough. But the format is really nice. I like shooting squares. It takes me back to the SX70 days, and I really, I like putting things in squares. It's either in a square or the widest rectangle I can find. So I want to build, Graham, I've been really inspired by a lot of the lens fabrication that you've been doing, the 3D printed elements of it, really getting my gears going. So I bought some lenses from a surplus shed, and I've been tinkering with those, trying to line up, the paper towel tube method and find the right focal length and combination, and just kind of experimenting, finding old defunct lenses around here and pulling elements out of them and trying to mate something up. But the goal is to get this will probably be another Franken camera, but we'll take a body like this for 120 film transport and get a nice square frame. And then I want a really low profile lens. I don't want to come out more than, any more than an inch, maybe.
Pocket camera, but maybe 2 or 3 inches for drawer handle bumpers.
Yeah, perfect. So those are the things in the future, and again, I'll be tweaking stuff. really, really, really like this build right here. This is purpose built. I wanted something that was that had some tilt to it.
Yeah.
You can see that.
Okay,
we're
so
looking
this
at here. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Graham.
No, you go.
We're looking at, is this a Polaroid 110A or B body that you have chopped up and added tilt on the front standard and a Graflex 2.3 back to the back of?
Yep, that's it. And coupled with the rangefinder. So I've got full rangefinder.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sweet scale focus on there as well. I don't know if you can focus on that.
Very nice.
So the one thing you have to do is you have to use a ground glass to set your initial focus with the tilt, because I don't know if you you guys have used tilt on a camera. You know, it's not.
I have not seen a tilt lens with a rangefinder. I guess, I mean, a Crown Graphic you could, but I mean, one is not supposed to use those two things at the same time. Supposed to, but I like where you're going here.
Yeah.
We got some pretty good images from it. I probably am going to have to adjust the focus a little bit, but not much. Let's see if I can pull some of those images up.
And while he's doing that, the tilt that we're talking about, he's made a bracket for the lens where it looks like it just has down tilt. Am I correct on that? It just tilts down. It doesn't.
Yeah,
tilt
it just
up.
tilts down.
Yeah. So
well, it tilts up. You just have to turn the camera upside down.
Exactly.
Symmetry.
It is it's just adding a few more brackets to that camera, including what looked like a metal Graflock back or Graflock mount to it.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of hard to show on the camera, but I'll see what I can do. It's again, more plywood, and I actually sculpted the plywood to receive the 120 back, so you can really see the tilt on this one.
Oh yeah.
I assume this was a square, or maybe
I was going to say these are square images. Is that a 6x6 back on there?
Yeah, it was. It's a 6x6 back on there. I have it.
Okay.
It's got two aluminum rails that hold that with nuts on them that hold the back, the film back on. I just got a Horseman 6x9 for this, so that'll be a little more exciting.
You could have bought another Volvo for the price of that Horseman back.
You know, I got two of them for $80 from Japan with like $25 shipping.
That's great.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. One of them's missing a screw, but
am I crazy? Do I not see those for $500 all the time? I'm thinking of a different.
A 612. That's
612. That's what. Yeah,
612.
Sorry.
That's the big one.
Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
You're right. I could probably get 3 Volvos for that. So let's see. I think that's the end of the roll there, but a pretty positive test roll, and I'm excited to get the other.
Did you call that a plowbell? Was that what that folder was called?
Flobble, like as in faux plobble.
Good.
Yes.
Hey, so I am curious about this camera, if it will exist one day, because I have a little invested in it. So a while back you had asked me, this is how we started talking, you had asked me to make like a Mamiya press mount for the 600 SE, and I said, like, I have no idea what that flange looks like. We kind of went back and forth. You actually shipped me that lens, and I measured it, and I got irate at the Polaroid Corporation because the flange, one, took me like hours going back and forth measuring and figuring out how to make the flange work. But I was angry not because it took a long time to figure out, but because the flange was modified from the Mamiya press flange, and it was done in a way that had no functional sense other than making it hard to mount that thing to any other camera. It was just keyed like the function of a key is to be hard to copy, and that's what that thing was. And they made so many beautiful lenses that are so annoying now, although now I have the file. But I just thought, like, these guys are being dicks.
Yeah, that was totally a power move. Just to, we don't. Yeah, we want to be exclusive. Yeah. So that again, I had that lens, the first lens I got for my original camera build, which was at 75 mil, the 600 SE lens, and that's what we got right here. You can see the
nicest camera I've worked on.
This is what Ethan made. This thing is so nice. We can just pop that lens right off. This build I'm really happy with. It was a long time coming, and again, kind of, each build influences the next, and I finally get to use that lens and shoot it on some film. Here's that 6x9 back Horseman, and then this
is that a Mamiya press finder?
Yep, that came with the lens.
Cool.
I used American chestnut. I just happened to have a small piece of it in my ridiculous wood collection, and
the strap lugs are extremely impressive. Look like some sort of belt and strap hardware.
Yeah, so that's gosh, I don't even remember what I got it for. I got to get the other one on the other side, but in order to do that, I have to remove the handle. So,
yeah.
But a different route with the handle this time, different contours, super comfortable. I love this thumb stud. It really gives you a nice purchase. Now you'll note that this one is a left-handed grip. Sorry, Ethan.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm not opposed to left-handed grips. They don't insult me. I just can't sell them nearly as much.
I love this. This really, really positive connection on the back, and seamless. Really.
Wow.
Really happy with this.
And did you glue and screw those, or just screw?
I used black silicone.
Yeah.
light leaks. My test, actually, the first test roll I ran, I didn't glue it. I just had it screwed in place, and I did have a little bit of a light leak there, but I was kind of expecting. So, yeah.
And hey, this handle is connected through some like big metal studs. Are those just pieces of pipe around a screw, or what's going on there?
That's exactly right. It's you can get like aluminum tubing at the hardware store. I think it was like 1/2-inch aluminum tube. These are like just brass hardware store bolts. They're like furniture bolts, very IKEA-ish. And then
And so you said you went a very different way with the handle. It's like a very untraditional, very comfortable looking shape. But was this still done on like a drum sander and then hand sander or pocket knife, or how'd you get that shape?
This was
very nice.
I did this one on a belt sander, actually. So you don't see the smaller contours that the drum sander was able to create. This was like a large belt sander, benchtop belt sander, and I used that to contour it.
Hey, here's a tool tip. Have you ever seen a mini belt sander? I didn't know that this tool existed until I was making like 100 mongooses and couldn't sand enough. It's like, or they sometimes call it an electric file. It's like a 1/2-inch thick belt sander.
Yeah.
This is one of my new favorite tools. I don't think I'm going to get into wooden handle carving myself, but I think that's
that would
I'd like to get
perfect.
into.
That would definitely be perfect. My neighbor actually has one. I go over and use his tools all the time too. So,
Ethan, what you need to do is laminate maybe 4 thicknesses of polycarbonate and then start to shape
Oh
it.
my god. I need to
And
do
then
less
polish
sanding
that
in my life.
thing, and then
But yeah, I actually just sanded the this is a weird pen that had like a weird unuseful clip. Been belt sanding the clip down very slowly and destroying my sander, but that's for the homemade pen podcast. Um, let's
sign me
see.
up for that one.
Yeah, are you a? Have you made some pens?
Not from scratch, but like I said, I modify everything.
We got something to talk about on Instagram soon. I for a while was 3D printing pens, and um, I could take like a 10-cent pen and 50 cents worth of 3D printed plastic and hardware, and take it apart, destroy the 10-cent pen, and make a far worse pen for like $2. um, Hey, so we've gone through a whole bunch of these cameras. I think it's probably a good time to take a stretch, and then on the last segment, we will wrap up, talk about some of the other things you did, let you plug some things, and take an audience question. Um, unless there's something we are missing here, how do you guys feel?
that sounds good.
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay, we will be back in 5. Okay, and we're back.
Yes. That's roll three. Roll three. Come on, roll three.
Okay. So over the break, Jeremiah was showing us a Lego camera, which I'd like to take a look at briefly, and then we're going to talk about some other things Jeremiah works on professionally, plug some stuff, and yeah, what's this Lego camera?
So again, this is kind of very similar to this build here, right? Basic box. I had a when this ran, I had it was a 90 mil. I think it was a Kodak 4x5 lens. It came off of a Graflex camera. That did pretty well. I had it fixed focal length, so there was no focus adjustment. It was like I'd shoot it at 22 and get everything I could in focus. But built the body out of Legos. I had.
I've just been on the Lego website, and I don't see the 6x6 Lego camera on it. Was this a limited special edition?
Yeah, special edition, the multicolored brick pack. You'll note the front of the vehicle pack there. This is the little hitch brick for like the train set version. Just so happens to fit.
And for those of you listening along, he uses the hitch as the cable release mount.
Oh, and then more of the Lego configuration cold shoe mount, which is super handy. And I have a small light meter that I glued a Lego brick to the back of, and I'll just stick it to the top of this, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm swapping the battery.
This is the another Mamiya S-back. And this, you can see the tape I used to seal light leaks, but you can see the recess in the brick profile just perfectly fits that back. And then I have ports here and here, which I ran. Can you guess what I used for that? More drawer pulls and hardware store hardware to hold it all together.
All right.
That's amazing. Did you glue that camera, or it's just like spit in a prayer?
Yeah, spit in a prayer. Actually, the reason why it's in pieces, my daughter knocked it off a table and it kind of exploded. I was able to mush it back together, but it's missing some components.
Okay, I'm gonna issue a challenge. I think that Homemade Camera Podcast needs an allied sister podcast called the Lego Camera Podcast. And we've seen so many of those. So somebody needs to step up.
There's some great ones. I will. So I'll show you one more Lego camera and then we can move on. This is Camera Obscura.
Oh.
That's amazing.
So it's geared focus.
Wow.
Okay. So he's okay. So there's a rack and pinion system, I guess. A Lego based rack and pinion system with a real
truck tire. Here's the badge. You know, it's high quality, just German made.
There we go. There we go.
I won a science fair, third place in third grade, actually, with a Lego rack and pinion car that I had built.
Okay. And by the way, the rack and pinion is the focusing mechanism. It is moving it in and out.
So I don't know if I'll be able to get it to work, but when this is on bulb, yeah, it's too dark behind me, but maybe
is that a ground glass?
It is.
No, it's clear Lego blocks.
Clear Lego blocks.
Clear Lego blocks is your ground glass.
Yeah. Do you see the light?
Yeah.
Projecting on it. It does.
Yeah,
it does
great.
Focus. It's kind of hard to.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Well done. That's probably the most complicated Lego camera I have ever seen.
Okay, it
Here's my
is.
control panel.
Oh yeah. It very, very much has the look and feel of like a Contact 645.
Yeah, right in there, the Mamiya 645.
Yeah. So, okay. So, how many times have you heard, Dad? What? I need that Lego piece.
Oh, I have my set. She has her. No, she's she likes to help. She's a good helper.
All right.
She'll help me build. So she's like, "Oh, what part do you need now, Dad?" She's fascinated by it. She's got a little engineer brain too. I think she's gonna.
Good.
Have
grow
you
up
gotten
to take
her
stuff
into
apart.
making cameras?
She helps me. She's helped me build some of these to some degree. You know, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" She asks me questions, and we've always treated her like a small adult. She gets the real answers. You know, it's there's no magic. It's just this is how it all happens. So you know, and she's always wants to know. She builds little things on her own. She'll stack a bunch of Legos together that kind of resembles a camera profile and run around and take pictures with me. I gave her a film camera when she was like 3 or 4, and we would go on film walks together, photo walks, picture walks, walk down the railroad tracks. You'll see a lot of that stuff in my Instagram feed, but it's you know, made it part of family time.
So we have a question from the folks watching live on YouTube. Ben Crone says, "Can I use Mega Blocks from Dollar General? I'm poor." Or do you have to use the genuine Danish plastic?
I mean, I think we could let that go.
Duplos for medium format.
Yeah, large format. This is our Duplo block 11 by 14.
We had another question from Francois Laverdure about the iZone camera in the background. Is that used as an iZone camera, or is it destined for the chop shop?
That's a good question. You know, I had every intention of using it as an iZone camera. I found it at a thrift store with like 3 packs of film with it. I was like, no way, the film, that's like the hardest thing to find.
Right.
But they were all bad. So it's I mean,
I got the same deal, 4 packs, shot them all, not a good frame in the bunch. 50 cents down the drain.
I don't know what I'd be able to get out of that lens. I'm sure it doesn't have a very large image circle. I'm sure it's little 35 mil. So if I do anything,
I bet it'll cover APS-C.
Oh, there's a
format. There. Okay.
Ben Crone says, "I saw an Instructable that attempted to put APS film in an iZone. Silliness, it sounds. Yeah, or silliness abounds."
So, okay, so all you need is just a body cap, and I think that I have thrown I'm pretty sure my iZone has been thrown away. Now I want one back. But
send me your address.
I'm telling you, a body cap. That's not a body cap. I have body caps floating around this desktop along with everything else. But a body cap and I'll bet it'll do something pretty close to that focal length. You know, on a mirrorless. So
right. Well, we'll have to see what happens next.
Okay. Enough about cameras. We're here talking about camera bags. No, so I mean we're kind of towards the end of the show, and I think you run like a pretty serious business making sewn products. I in fact have 2. One is a pencil case. This one is what I carry around, what I'm using as my webcam right now, but it's my digital camera bag. It's super nice, pretty like waterproofy or water resistant, and yeah, tell us a little bit about the other businesses you run, and maybe we might see some camera bags or straps or fabric cameras coming out of you.
So if there's anything that I've learned in my career of photography and the sewn trades, that kind of thing, whenever you make a hobby or activity that you truly love into a business, a full-time business, you really learn to not love it anymore. So that's why the commercial photography thing kind of, I lost taste for it. It just wasn't me. And that's what brought me around to building cameras and kind of exploring it as an art form. And sewing has kind of taken the same career path. So I've explored it as an art form. Now it's kind of our daily bread and butter tool. But there's a main reason I haven't sold any of my cameras because I know what it would take to launch a project like that. Hats off to you, Ethan. That's incredible. But it would have to be, it's a heavy lift. It's a really heavy lift. And I've done it with a couple businesses now. And I like keeping the camera thing kind of a personal art piece, eventually that'll turn into books and gallery shows and things like that when I have time to edit and print and compose all that stuff. But back to the sewn trades element, there is just because we have the assets and resources to do this, it's super easy for us to make products that are dedicated to the camera world, So in the near future, I've got a few ideas grinding around. I work a lot with leather, so we're looking at doing some leather straps, but it is a flooded market, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes out there that's, making beautiful leather camera straps already. The camera bag world is kind of flooded too with a lot of really nice high-end products that are affordable, and to bring something like that to market again can be kind of challenging. So I'm looking at like the middle road here, like what's going to be the most affordable product that we can bring to market that virtually anybody could use. So Ethan, you've got our Dopp Kit there, the bag that you were just showing us. That's like a 4x8x5 zipper pouch. It's got a little side zipper pouch on it. I use those for like all my cables. My radio slaves live in one of those. I've got like I use one as a Dopp Kit, all my regular everyday sundries and whatnot. And then I think lens wraps. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh yeah.
Company
Oh,
called
I have a few hundred.
MBC. I think they were called MBC. They were they made really great lens wraps, but they disappeared a few years ago. And they also made some really cool pouches. So I kind of see a niche there. I love these lens wraps. You can wrap anything in it, cameras, recording equipment, whatever, and it'll fit a wide variety of sizes. So, we have some cool ideas. Right now I'm shopping around for a brand name. So I'm trying to, if anybody has some good ideas out there and what they want to see in terms of simple camera products. I also have a SX70 case I made for myself.
Oh, whoa.
Super simple, not this ugly SX70 here, but
Very nice.
folds down. Got a pocket in the back so you can put your prints in it as you make them. And nice thing about this is it slips inside of your regular everyday bag or backpack, so you have your camera with you. It's protected in your bag, but it's not it's not an extra accessory you have to carry with you. So and again, I carried an SX70 for decades. It's my most favorite camera in terms of commercial cameras. So keep an eye out for that. That's something that I'm going to bring to market, and I'll probably launch this stuff through this Sunny 16 Instagram feed, and then kind of build on that platform for our marketing. But if you're looking for some of the stuff we make now, which really covers a wide gamut, we make a lot of backpacks, custom hats. We do a lot of custom cut and sew. So if somebody's out there looking to make a product line, that's something we can help you develop and hopefully put into production and hopefully be able to do it stateside. Labor cost is crazy here compared to China, so it's a difficult battle. You got to find the right balance in cost of goods and market value. So
I worked for the largest clothing manufacturer in the United States in 2011, 2012, and then eventually, actually, my worst business decision of all time was flying to Thailand and Vietnam and having, 30, 40 grand worth of clothing manufactured and shipped back. And I just realized, like, at the cost of doing it on a small and medium scale, I really wasn't saving all that much because I saved on labor, right? But you pay for the shipping after the product is done, or you pay for the shipping on the raw materials, right? Because that all comes from China. And so, a third of the cost of a garment was labor. And so if a third of the cost doubled to have it made in the US, but I didn't have to spend a month sitting in Bangkok sweating myself silly and like hiring a translator to negotiate with the jobber, like it seems like, if you're not going to make more than 5,000 of any individual piece, like it kind of, if you're selling it in America or shipping it from America, it can make a lot more sense to do it here. I think that's a reasonable biz.
Yeah. The big challenge right now is, just finding a place that does that kind of work. This is something that we've offshored for the last 30 years.
Yep.
And as a result, there's technology in the sewn trades that doesn't even exist stateside. They have machines that do things overseas that we don't have here. They're not even programmed in English for us to be able to operate them. So we've as a country have really done ourselves a disservice, and I can point out numerous circumstances where it's had a major impact on all of our major cities. And I'm not just talking like steel manufacturing, that kind of thing, which we really saw drop off in the 80s and 90s and throughout.
Right, but I mean, you're just north of the American Southeast, which was like, North Carolina, South Carolina was huge textile production, for 100 years.
And furniture, too.
That's a lot of the industry that remains in the country is there, and they're giant companies, right? They handle like 80% of every hospital contract in the United States, and they make everything from towels to bed sheets to scrubs. It's become a monopoly of sorts, and it's and that's really done a disservice to the small manufacturer community. In terms of sustainability for a manufacturer, you've got right now in our current economy, you're looking at living or working in your living space, so i.e. your bedroom, your basement, your garage, building that stuff where you have low overhead, or you're 15 to 20 employees in 10,000 square feet with a significant amount of overhead. So anywhere in between there, you're just not, your cost of operation is too high for your output. And it really just doesn't allow any room for a small business to grow. So, I'm using SoLab right now to find a way to bridge that gap in our city and bring the sewn trades back to what we do. Again, I'm hands-on. I'm a technician through and through. I don't call myself an entrepreneur. I feel like that just doesn't.
That's meant for fitness people who have YouTube channels.
Yep, bingo. Yeah, that's not me. I'm mechanical. I can take apart and rebuild all of our sewing machines. I can take apart and rebuild any shape that you can imagine, and I can turn it into fabric or whatever. But not everybody has that. Actually, a lot of people don't have that skill, and it's something that I think needs to come back to our country in a big way, and I think it'll help our cities and our youth. I don't think you need to go to college to have a great education and a great career path. And I think we need.
Wait, no, hold on. Go to college, kids, because I need to eat.
I spent $250,000 on college, and I learned everything that I know on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's the reason you didn't go to community college. Community college, you don't have to spend $250,000.
Scam. No, I don't think I spent $250,000, but maybe more than a tenth.
I don't mean any disrespect to colleges, because there's a lot of great schools out there, but I do think that I think kids need to get out there, get a job right out of high school, and figure out what they want to do. Try some things, and see.
Find out. People need to find out what they don't want to do, because if you go to college,
$30,000 to figure out what you don't want to do, which I see that again and again.
I had my last final for my web design students yesterday, and I had a long discussion with somebody who didn't want to do web design and had finished a 2-year degree in something he didn't want to do, and that frustrates me, and it frustrated him, and but find out what you don't want to do, and then go do something else.
Okay, so getting back to the getting off ragging on college. Jerimiah, where can people find SoLab if they are potential customers, either wholesale or retail?
And let's make sure it's SEWLAB.
Yep, SEWLAB. USA.com. So solabusa.com. If you ride a bike, check out holdfastorDie.com. That's our foot retention system that we started back in 2009, still going strong. And if you're looking for cloth masks or PPE, we have a US Made Safe website, so usmadesafe.com, and that has a cloth mask system that we developed at the beginning of the pandemic this past year, and those are customizable. So for anybody that's running a business and needs match your uniform or something like that, we can accommodate. We also bought into an N95 mask making system, or invested in an N95 mask making system, which is a huge project. And we're still pursuing our NIOSH application, which is really a big lift. So we're selling N95s very soon. So check us out there if that's something that interests you.
All right. So at this point, we're going to ask, do you have any shout outs? Anybody you want to say, thanks for anything?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say thank you to my Uncle Joe for teaching me that Sunny 16 thing, man. That got me a long way.
We all need enablers. My aunt is my enabler. She bought me my first camera,
Yep. He was my film dealer too. He got me well stocked in film.
First roll's free, man. First roll's free.
Yeah. So I will send out a heavy scolding to Fujifilm. Still mad at you for taking all that stuff off the shelf. Don't do it to our Instax wide. It is not quite as nice as the XP100C, but please keep it around for a while. And Polaroid, what did you do?
Okay. Ethan, do you have anybody to shout out to?
Yeah, I think Jeff Perry's working on this milkshake mixer, the Super Swizzle or something like that. It's a automated Patterson tank stirrer, which I'm sure will get 1 million people online like, why would you need that? I just shake the tank. which
Yeah.
is fine. But like, if your time is worth anything, you go make a sandwich and come back, and this thing just stirs your film for, hours and
Okay.
hours.
So Jeff's been demonstrating that on Instagram. I want to be very clear. Don't buy the one with the clear tank. You're going to fog your film.
No, it's fine. You do it in a dark room with orthochromatic film. No, I'm excited about the Kickstarter campaign. People should go check that out. And that's all I got.
And is that live yet?
No, not live yet, but coming soon.
Okay.
Check out his Instagram, 20th Century Camera.
Okay. I have a couple of shout outs. I wanted to, and I'm going to explain to everybody what the shout outs are. This is my little lens. It is a 15 millimeter lens that I just measured, has a 10 millimeter diameter. That means this is a 15 millimeter 1.5. So it covers APS-C, it covers my Fuji webcam. I've been posting a lot on Instagram with this in the last few days, but I wanted to show you guys how it was put together. It's two parts. This is simply a body cap that is cut out. Okay, so that's a body cap for the Fuji X. And then I have this, and this is just, this is the film part, and it has an adhesive felt around there. So the diameter of the cylinder is 2 millimeters less than the diameter of the hole, and that perfectly fits the felt. So it keeps it in there, and you can use it as a lens baby. You can tilt it and do all that type of stuff. So I didn't design this. This is a 3D printed. I didn't design this. I went to Thingiverse, and there are two guys who did these. One is IG Farm. IG Farm. I'm going to say thank you to IG Farm. He did an extension tube, and then I took it into Fusion 360 and cut it down to this. And so thank you, IG Farm. And I also have a Pentax K body cap by Max 0U. So MAX, the numeral 0, and then the U. So those guys shared their work and have allowed me to not spend any time modeling that. So thank you very much. It's a bunch of fun, and so thank you. Thanks to Nick, who's not here today. He was here in spirit, but not in voice or body. And I guess that's it. We have to thank Robbie Cribbs of Sound Trap Studios. So Robbie composed the theme music that you're about to hear. And anything else?
We're good. Thanks, Robbie.
Okay. Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie.
And thanks, Jeremiah, for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Great talking to you.